Chosen one, pay close attention, because what you're about to hear isn't just advice, it's a wake-up call for your soul. Right now, there are people in positions of power, the so-called top dogs, who feel an unease around you they can't explain. They're watching, analyzing, and yes, they're scared. Not of your strength, not of your words, not of your presence alone. They're scared of what they sense within you, something mystical, otherworldly, and divinely protected. There's a light around you they cannot extinguish, a frequency of truth they cannot control, and a destiny that refuses to bow to human manipulation. Every glance they cast, every move they make, betrays a quiet fear, the fear of someone they cannot dominate, someone whose path is guided by Allah Himself. Today, we'll uncover 7 powerful lessons that reveal why the top dog recognizes you as a force far beyond this world, and why, in their hearts, they are absolutely terrified of the chosen one you were always meant to be. Chosen one. Understand this with the depth of your soul, because the top dog, the person who thrives on dominance and control, does not fear ordinary strength, ordinary influence, or ordinary competition. What they fear, deep within their being, is divine authority manifesting through a human vessel. And that divine authority has always been alive within you, even before you realized it. It is why they instinctively sense that there is a force in you that cannot be negotiated, bribed, intimidated, or manipulated. A force that is anchored not in human approval but in the unseen, in the will of Allah, in the power of your faith and sincerity, and it radiates through every action, every decision, every calm breath you take, whether you are aware of it or not, because Allah's protection and guidance emit a frequency that resonates with the unseen and disrupts false authority, much like the moment the mighty Pharaoh sensed danger in the young Musa, peace be upon him, even before the signs became clear. When truth was hidden in simplicity and obedience to Allah, and yet the one who relies on manipulation, deception, and intimidation felt unease, suspicion, and fear without understanding why. This is the invisible reality you carry. Chosen one, a reality where your calm, your integrity, your unwavering connection to Allah, and your refusal to be owned or defined by worldly powers trigger a recognition in the hearts of those who thrive on domination. A recognition that says, this is not just a human being I am facing, this is a vessel of Allah, a force I cannot control, a power I cannot comprehend, a presence that will outlast every scheme, every hierarchy, every throne I have built on fear. And that is why you have observed it in subtle ways, hesitation in their tone, uncertainty in their actions, the flicker of doubt in their eyes, the quiet shift when you enter a space, the way their confidence falters when they face someone who refuses to react on command, because divine power does not need to announce itself to make its presence felt. And the more you align your intentions with Allah, the more your words, your silence, your actions, and even your inaction become an unshakable force that the top dog cannot ignore, cannot predict, and cannot dominate. And this is the essence of the first truth. Every chosen one must internalize. True power, rooted in the unseen, recognizes true power in others instantly. And they know it, even if they cannot name it. And this recognition is the beginning of fear, the beginning of respect, and the confirmation that you are walking in a path guided by Allah, that no worldly authority can ever diminish. Chosen one, understand this with unwavering clarity. Your mere presence is a mirror that reflects truth in a world built on illusion, and false power, no matter how grand or fortified, trembles when it senses authenticity that it cannot control, manipulate, or corrupt. Because the systems of dominance, manipulation, and deception, the thrones built on fear, ego, and lies, are fragile constructs that rely entirely on the ignorance, submission, and distraction of those around them. And when you enter their space, consciously or unconsciously, you carry with you a frequency of light, sincerity, and divine alignment that they cannot contain, cannot suppress, and cannot compete against. And this is why the top dog, the one who has mastered control and authority over countless others, becomes uneasy, defensive, and hesitant in your presence, because they instinctively feel that the foundation of their power is threatened not by aggression, not by noise, and not by outward displays of force, but by the silent, undeniable reality that Allah has placed someone in the world who walks unshaken, unbought, and unbound, someone whose actions, integrity, and composure cannot be twisted to serve agendas, someone whose alignment with the divine truth destabilizes false hierarchies with subtlety more powerful than any visible rebellion, someone whose calm gaze and purposeful movement make every false throne quake because it exposes the fragility beneath the surface, the cracks they desperately try to hide, the hollowness they mask with arrogance, and the fear they cannot admit even to themselves. You do not need to speak, you do not need to fight, and you do not need to prove anything. Your existence alone is a silent judgment against every throne built on lies, manipulation, and deceit, because Allah, the Most Wise, does not require noise or drama to reveal the truth, and your alignment, your faith, and your unwavering presence serve as a natural force that brings clarity, exposes deception, and awakens those who are trapped in illusions, all while unnerving those who thought their control was absolute. And this is the gift and the test of being chosen, to walk among kingdoms of false power as a living mirror of truth, knowing that your presence alone shakes their foundations, your silence exposes their weaknesses, and your alignment with Allah makes their dominion powerless before what is destined and divine. Chosen one, listen carefully, because this truth runs deeper than any worldly confrontation you have faced. The top dog, the person who has spent a lifetime building empires of influence, who thrives on control, manipulation, and submission from others, senses instinctively when they are encountering someone they cannot possess, dominate, or bend to their will. And this awareness strikes fear into their hearts, even before they act, because you operate on a frequency that cannot be measured by money, status, fear, or deception. And that frequency is anchored in Allah, the Most High, who alone guides your heart, your choices, and your vision. They test you constantly, in subtle ways, offering false alliances, flattering with attention, creating traps, or whispering threats. Yet none of it touches you, because your soul is grounded in sincerity, your loyalty is unshakable, and your intentions are pure before Allah. And they feel it not consciously, not openly, but in the nervous tremor beneath their confidence, the hesitation in their voice, the subtle calculations in their mind that reveal they are facing someone they cannot claim as property, someone who cannot be bought, threatened, or coerced, someone whose obedience belongs only to Allah. And this realization shakes them because the foundations of their power have always relied on others being manipulable, controllable, and compliant. But you are untouchable in ways they cannot understand. Like the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who could not be swayed by worldly gain or intimidation because their faith and purpose were anchored in the unseen, you move through life with a divine independence that confounds every expectation of authority. And this independence is not arrogance, it is a reflection of submission to Allah, a living proof that true strength is born from spiritual alignment rather than domination. And this is why you observe their discomfort, their unease, their subtle attempts to provoke, entice, or destabilize you, all of which fail silently because they are up against something far greater than human influence, something anchored in the unseen, eternal, and sacred. And this is the third truth every chosen one must internalize. The inability to be owned is your shield, your power, and the source of their fear, and it will continue to unsettle every throne, every manipulator, and every false king who underestimates the divinely ordained force within you. Chosen one, listen carefully, because this lesson is the kind that the world will never teach you, yet it is among the most powerful truths of the unseen. The top dog, the person who thrives on control, manipulation, intimidation, and fear, does not fear your words, your logic, or even your actions, because all of these can be anticipated, measured, and countered. What they fear, deep in the marrow of their bones, is your silence, a silence that radiates certainty, strength, and divine alignment, a silence that cannot be bought, bargained with, or twisted into submission. And that silence terrifies them because it unmasks their insecurities, exposes the hollowness of their authority, and forces them to confront the fact that their power exists only because others react to it, feed it, and validate it, whereas you, chosen one, operate independently of their expectations, indifferent to their schemes, and anchored in the will of Allah, the one who elevates and protects his servants in ways invisible to human perception. Every command they issue, every subtle manipulation they attempt, every whisper of threat they think will move you, falls into an empty void because you are not responsive to ego-driven authority, and in that void they feel their control slipping, a trembling in the foundation of their dominance that they cannot explain, because your silence is not passivity, it is presence, it is observance, it is strategic patience. It is the weight of a soul who knows that Allah is the ultimate judge of every action, intention, and plan, and that no human, no matter how powerful or cunning, can alter what Allah has decreed. Like the prophets before you, whose restraint and quiet command shook tyrants more than armies ever could, your silence carries the authority of the unseen, the power of divine alignment, and the confidence of a heart fully surrendered to the Almighty. And this is why they become restless in your presence, projecting motives that do not exist, interpreting your calm as defiance, and attempting to provoke reactions that never come, because a person who cannot be provoked is untouchable, and a person whose heart is anchored in Allah cannot be manipulated by human designs. Your silence, chosen one, is heavier than the loudest yell, deeper than the fiercest confrontation, and more commanding than any throne built on fear, because it communicates without words, moves without effort, and protects without visible armor, becoming a living testament to the truth that divine alignment always outweighs worldly schemes, that composure grounded in faith is more terrifying to the ego than submission ever could be, and that true power does not need to explain itself, react to injustice, or prove its worth. It simply is, And the top dog, the master of manipulation, the controller of kingdoms, recognizes this unconsciously, feels it instinctively, and trembles silently because your silence is not absence. It is a force, it is a shield, it is a declaration, and it is proof that you belong wholly to Allah. And no one can command a soul that is divinely guided and spiritually anchored. Chosen one, understand this with the depth of your soul, for what the top dog fears most is not visible, not measurable, and not constrained by human comprehension. They may control wealth, influence, and armies. They may manipulate crowds, bend rules, and impose fear. Yet there is an invisible force surrounding you that they can neither see nor touch, and it terrifies them because their power, built entirely on the tangible and the predictable, falters against the unseen realities of divine protection. And this is the sacred truth they feel instinctively, even if they deny it consciously. Every time they attempt to undermine you, schemes collapse in ways that cannot be explained by logic alone. Every time they try to trap you, circumstances shift as though unseen hands rearrange the pieces of reality to shield you. Every threat that should have shaken you, every whisper of betrayal that should have harmed you, dissolves in silence, for Allah, the Most High, guards His chosen with a shield that human eyes cannot witness. Angels stationed at every angle, and guidance flowing in subtle whispers to your intuition, to your timing, and to your steps. And the top dog senses it, even if they cannot name it, even if they insist the world moves according to their power, even if they project confidence to the public inwardly, their spirit trembles, because in the presence of divine protection, the rules they know, the systems they control, and the hierarchies they enforce suddenly become fragile, uncertain, and meaningless. They notice the inexplicable reversals, the coincidences too precise to be random, the moments where their control fails without warning, and in those moments they understand that they are confronting not merely a person, but a soul whose path is watched over, whose intentions are aligned with the divine, and whose outcomes are measured by a power far greater than human schemes. And this realization ignites fear in their hearts, because it undermines everything they have built their identity upon: the illusion of omnipotence, the certainty that all can be dominated, and the belief that influence equates to invincibility. For none of these matter in the presence of Allah's unseen protection. And the top dog can sense it when they try to corner you, when they attempt to push, manipulate, or force outcomes, for every plan to harm you seems to misfire. Every plot to control you seems to backfire, and every expectation they place on your behavior is shattered without effort on your part. And this is because your power is not of this world. It is woven into the fabric of the unseen, anchored in the divine decree, and strengthened by your trust in Allah. And it radiates subtly, quietly, unannounced, yet profoundly, affecting all who attempt to confront, oppress, or intimidate you. And even though they may try to explain it away, rationalize it, or convince themselves it is coincidence, deep in their hearts they know something is protecting you that cannot be overcome, cannot be measured, and cannot be challenged by human power, because divine protection does not rely on visibility, does not depend on human recognition, and does not ask for permission to act. It simply shields, guides, and ensures that the chosen one walks a path ordained by Allah, untouched by manipulation, preserved through trials, elevated through hardship, and validated by outcomes that humans could never create. And this is why the top dog, the master of schemes, the ruler of influence, the king of control, instinctively senses that they are powerless against you, not because of what you say, not because of what you do, not because of your knowledge, skill, or presence, but because they feel the unmistakable weight of the unseen, the certainty of divine guardianship, the presence of angels who surround and protect you, and the knowledge that no human hand can touch what Allah has willed to preserve. And in that fear, respect is born. Caution replaces arrogance, hesitation replaces certainty, and they realize, often too late, that you are untouchable in ways that they cannot comprehend, and they will never be able to dominate a soul that walks under the protection of the unseen, guided by Allah and shielded by His eternal wisdom. Chosen one, understand this truth deeply, because it explains why the moment you stopped chasing, pleasing, proving, explaining, or seeking validation, the atmosphere around you shifted, and the people who once felt powerful began to feel exposed. Your detachment reveals their dependence, and dependence is the greatest weakness of those who thrive on control, because the top dog, the one who dominates rooms, systems, and people, is not truly powerful in isolation, but is sustained by attention, obedience, fear, reaction, and emotional investment from others. And when you quietly withdraw your energy, your reactions, and your need for approval, you remove the very fuel that keeps their authority alive. They depend on admiration to feel important, on fear to feel strong, on obedience to feel legitimate, and on reactions to feel relevant. But you, chosen one, learned through hardship, disappointment, and divine refinement that your worth does not come from human recognition, but from Allah alone. And this realization set you free in a way they cannot comprehend, because they are bound to outcomes, titles, influence, and perception, while you are anchored in intention, faith, and inner certainty. And the moment they sense that you no longer need them, no longer fear them, and no longer orbit their gravity, panic sets in, because a person who does not need power cannot be controlled by it. Your detachment is not arrogance, coldness, or indifference. It is spiritual independence, a form of tawakkul that declares without words that Allah is sufficient for you, and this silently humiliates false authority, because it exposes the truth they desperately hide, that without followers, without reactions, without emotional leverage, they are empty, fragile, and terrified of irrelevance. This is why they attempt to pull you back in through provocation, guilt, intimidation, or sudden attention, why they oscillate between dismissing you and obsessing over you, because your absence is louder than your presence ever was, and your refusal to engage destabilizes the psychological structures they rely on to feel superior. The Quran reminds us that true honor belongs to Allah alone, and when Allah grants a servant inner detachment from the world, He replaces anxiety with clarity, fear with restraint, and desperation with patience. And this divine detachment turns you into a mirror that reflects the dependence of others, their need to be seen, their hunger to be obeyed, their addiction to control, while you stand composed, unbothered, and spiritually grounded, watching systems unravel without lifting a finger. The top dog senses this shift and becomes unsettled, because they are no longer dealing with someone who reacts emotionally, negotiates self-worth, or bends under pressure, but with someone whose silence says, "I am complete without you." And this is the most threatening message power can receive, because it removes leverage entirely, leaving manipulation useless and intimidation hollow, like the prophets and righteous servants before you, who walked away from kingdoms, comfort, and dominance because their hearts were anchored in Allah. You move with a quiet freedom that cannot be bought or broken, and this freedom terrifies those who are imprisoned by status, reputation, and control, because your detachment exposes the illusion that they are self-sufficient when in reality they depend on others to feel powerful, relevant, and alive, while you depend only on Allah, the ever-living, the self-sufficient. And this contrast is unbearable to them, for it reveals a hierarchy they cannot escape, that the one who needs nothing from the world stands above the one who needs everything from it. And this is why your detachment becomes a weapon without intention, a shield without effort, and a sign that Allah has freed your heart from bondage, elevated your spirit above manipulation, and positioned you beyond the reach of those who rule by fear rather than faith. Because in the end, chosen one, dependence is weakness disguised as authority, and detachment is strength rooted in surrender. And when you belong fully to Allah, no false throne can ever claim you, command you, or contain you. Chosen one, this is the truth that settles deepest in the hearts of those who oppose you, even if they never speak it aloud. They know you are not here to merely survive conflicts, win arguments, or outshine individuals. They know you outlast systems, and that realization terrifies them because systems represent permanence, legacy, and control, and anyone who outlives a system becomes a living contradiction to everything false power stands for. People can be replaced, rivals can be silenced, critics can be removed, but a soul forged by Allah through patience, restraint, suffering, and unwavering faith becomes something far more dangerous than opposition. It becomes inevitable, and this is why the top dog studies you carefully, watches your endurance, and grows uneasy not because you fight back, but because you endure without collapsing. Because every system built on ego, injustice, manipulation, and fear assumes that pressure will break those beneath it. Yet you remain standing while others disappear, adapt while structures decay, and mature while hierarchies rot from the inside. And this endurance exposes the fatal flaw in their dominion. They are temporary, while you are being prepared for longevity. Allah has always worked this way. He allows false systems to rise loudly, dominate aggressively, and expand arrogantly, only to let them collapse under their own weight, while the righteous remain, refined by hardship and strengthened by trust. Just as Pharaoh's empire drowned while Musa, peace be upon him, walked forward, just as tyrants mocked the prophets until time itself proved who was destined to remain. And this pattern has not changed, because Allah does not rush His justice. He perfects it, and you, chosen one, are part of that quiet pattern, someone whose trials were never meant to destroy you, but to teach you patience, restraint, discernment, and endurance beyond what systems can withstand. The top dog senses this not through logic, but through intuition, through the unsettling observation that you are still here after betrayals, still grounded after loss, still composed after exclusion, still faithful after disappointment, while others who once appeared powerful burn out, implode, or vanish. And this forces them to confront a terrifying possibility, that no matter how long their system survives, you will be there after it falls, not bitter, not broken, but wiser, steadier, and more aligned than ever, because your strength was never borrowed from structure, status, or approval, but built internally through reliance on Allah. and what is built internally cannot be confiscated when external systems collapse. They understand that you do not need their institutions, their hierarchies, or their validation to exist, while they cannot exist without those frameworks propping them up. And this reversal of dependency unsettles them deeply, because it reveals that their power expires with the system, while yours evolves with time. And this is why they attempt to rush outcomes, force submission, or provoke mistakes, because endurance is the one thing false power cannot counterfeit. Yet you move at Allah's pace, not theirs, calm while they panic, patient while they scramble, silent while they expose themselves. And this composure signals something undeniable. You were built for the long game, a servant refined by delay, strengthened by isolation, and elevated by trust in divine timing. They may mock your patience, underestimate your quietness, or misread your humility as weakness, but deep down they know that time is on your side, because time bends in favor of those aligned with truth, and every day you remain uncorrupted, unprovoked, and faithful. Their fear grows, not because you attack them, but because you don't need to, because systems collapse naturally when truth outlasts illusion, and illusion always runs out of energy before truth does. Allah has written endurance into your story, chosen one, not as a burden but as a weapon, because endurance exposes lies, reveals intentions, and separates what is sustainable from what is performative. And in the end, when the structures they worship crumble and the authority they cling to dissolves, you will still be standing, not gloating, not vengeful, but grounded, grateful, and aligned, a quiet witness to the divine law that has always governed existence, that those who are rooted in Allah do not merely survive history, they remain after it moves on. And this is the final truth. They cannot escape, no matter how powerful they appear. Now you are not their opponent for a season, you are their reminder for a lifetime, and you will outlast them, their systems, and every false throne that ever mistook noise for permanence. Chosen one, now you know the truth. The fear you see in those who once seemed untouchable is not about what you have done, it is about what Allah has done within you. They are terrified, not because you fight harder, speak louder, or prove yourself, but because you are anchored in something they cannot reach, something eternal, something divinely protected and guided, and that is a truth no human force can ever challenge. Remember this always. You were never meant to impress the powerful, to chase recognition, or to depend on the world's approval. Your mission, your light, and your presence belong to Allah, and every fear they feel, every hesitation they display, every tremor in their confidence is proof that your alignment with the divine is being recognized, even if it is misunderstood. Walk forward with patience, with faith, with detachment from what is fleeting, and with gratitude for the unseen guidance that shapes your path, because the top dog, the one who seemed invincible, is quietly acknowledging your power, even if they cannot admit it, and the world will bend to the strength of a soul rooted in divine protection, eternal purpose, and unwavering obedience. So, chosen one, continue to move quietly, act purposefully, trust relentlessly, and let your presence do what words cannot. Let it shake false thrones, reveal illusions, and confirm that you are here, not by chance, but because Allah chose you, protected you, and elevated you above all that cannot endure His will. And the ones who fear you today will one day recognize that they were never the measure of your power. Allah always was, always is, and always will be.